wait for it to actually start. I don't know when it actually turns on. And hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Pumpkin Copter Cast, the only video game show. So today I am joined by two guests who have at this point been on both of the shows that I host and have decided, yes, let's continue to listen to this like literal living cartoon character. I'm joined by, my first in like yeah, in order of me remembering when I actually set this up. My first guest is, a man who has so many podcasts you think he is the fourth McElroy brother. We have Christopher the Chipman.
That is correct. It's a pleasure as always.
And yeah. And my next guest, you've known them before. If you're you're one of like the -7 people who actually watch the show, then you'll remember their most recent appearance in which they joined, also sometime recurring guest Rosalind, the demons from Doom did nothing wrong, damn low. And I talked about all manner of pride stuff. That's
Yes.
that's basically how she agreed that I should introduce her every time she's on the show. Because, just tangent, she used to work for that one video gamer, The Completionist. And, the last Let's Play she was a part of with that team before she moved was, Halo. And then she, kept arguing with, the other two hosts about how the Covenant wasn't really wrong if you think about it.
Oh man.
Anyway, so, if you're like, as hard as it is to believe, it's somehow both still the year 2021, and also we have at this point just slightly less than 3 months left of the year, and unfortunately we're still in year 2 of what can only be described by, anyone who isn't, X-Men antagonist levels of, bigoted dum-dum. We're still in what can only be described as like a physical and psychological garbage fire. And, I believe we will get through this. I'm certain of that. It's just to borrow the words of everyone's favorite madman and then mad lady with a box, we're gonna have to take the long way around. And, to help us on that long trip around, we might as well just talk about games that have helped us get through this, this real life actual apocalypse, like almost but not quite Fallout apocalypse, and as well as talk about, games of the yesteryears, games of the year of yesteryear, since, this year is winding down. Like, I'm just, still can't get over that.
It's winding down. Really? This year is winding down? It does seems like it just got started yesterday and it's winding down.
Yeah.
Well, shoot, I am more than interested in hearing what games got Chris through, because I'm afraid my answers are going to be the most basic answers in the history of basic answers.
Mine.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's right. Mine surprisingly probably will be as well, but mine have an interesting bent to them. So, the 2020 began with me and Debbie Tyler here hanging out at PAX East, and it was on the cusp.
Go Sox.
When COVID was but a twinkle in the eye of people afraid to fly here, and we really didn't know what it was. And so, yeah, there was this air of scaredness at PAX. Sony didn't come at all because no one was flying out of Asia. And they were running around cleaning every controller and everything you touched, and no one was wearing masks because we didn't know that that's how it was. It was just a big deal, but not a big deal, right? And
Right.
and I put on a panel with my brother. It's the first panel either of us ever did at a con like that, called Grumpy Old Gamers, and it was like, this year is going to be great. Like, that's what I was like, okay, we got this little thing going on, and then the world shut down. I have at the time had a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old child, a 4-year-old girl and a 1-year-old boy, and now they're 6 and 3 at the other end. And so my bent is, because I'm a parent and have less time, my games are pretty basic, but the bent of my 2 years is, within those 2 years, my 6-year-old went from someone who watched me playing games when they were 4 to someone who's been watching tons of YouTube Let's Plays and then asking if they can try.
The best.
Right.
I'm loving it.
Right. So my 2 years have been watching my daughter learn how to be a terrible goose in Untitled Goose Game, and watch my daughter learn how to get cat shines in Bowser's Fury, and watch my daughter learn how to, inhabit a Tyrannosaurus Rex in Super Mario Odyssey. And what's amazing about it is she watches these independent of me, like while I'm at work, and then I come home and she's sitting on the couch now with my Switch. And I go, "What are you doing?" And she goes, "Oh, I saw somebody make the landscaper, change hats, and I wanted to see if I could figure out how to do it. And look, I did it." And that is blowing my mind, because when I was 4, 5, 6 years old, I was playing an Atari, and the level of complexity, even though the hand-eye coordination, the idea of it is still the same, it's like the brain is still working the same way. Like, to me, picking up a game like Super Mario Odyssey, or picking up the remake of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, which is bringing me back to being 17, or 15, 16, whenever I first got that game, that level of complexity I never could have thought of picking up. But the way you learn the core mechanics at 6 is the same. Like, she can play a side scroller just as well as she can pick up Odyssey and do all of the things she sees. And to me, that's really been what's getting me by, because I can watch her learn and have that connection. And again, what's the most thing that I played for this past 2 years? Tetris 99. I just didn't stop, because you can turn it on while the kids are being annoying and getting ready to go to sleep, and just play through a bunch of levels, and they're over in the corner watching videos or whatever. But the game that I played that I actually played through was Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Oh.
And that was just wonderful. I have an episode of my show coming out soon talking about that game with somebody. But
that game was my first introduction to the Final Fantasy series, and I'm definitely showing my video game ignorance, because, see, for me, please excuse me, folks at home, I discovered battling Doom Demons as I cook them over my oven. During the pandemic, see, the pandemic really gave me an opportunity. I love hearing about your kids and watching your kids being able to play video games, because during the pandemic, I think it was a great way for people to connect with others. And I've always, I work for Disney. That's been my big thing. Everybody knows I work at Disney. And I work and I see all the kids, and the kids are so, connected and engaged, and everybody's so connected and engaged with the product that we put out. And I missed that. So being able to play games online was definitely a more visceral way of getting back to what I was missing. And it's actually, Chippa, it's actually kind of funny that you mentioned parents connecting to kids with video games, because my mom and I, My mom bought a Switch Lite, and she'd never bought a game console before, but my mom and I were playing Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only way I could see her, and I'd never played Animal Crossing before. I mean, pretty much my video game experience essentially revolved around, prior to 2020, revolved around my friend April's PlayStation and BioShock and some first-person shooters. I liked the video games. I liked Resident Evil. I liked a bunch of other stuff. But Animal Crossing, Nintendo, I played them. I knew that they were there, but I was never as invested. And then I bought a Switch. My mom bought a Switch. My mom bought Animal Crossing. And then she was like, do you want money for a Switch? I'll buy you a Switch, and then you and I can play Animal Crossing together. And it was like, when you're older and you have those parents, and I'm on that weird cusp of, in my 30s, where it's like, are you an adult? Are you not an adult? You don't know, but you have your parents, and your parents call you and they're like, hey, can we send you some money? My mom called me and she'd be like, hey, can I send you bells in Animal Crossing? Do you need to pay off your house? Do you need to pay off your house? Do you want to come to my island? And do you want me to give you the golden tools? She actually got a 5-star island before me, which I'm still kind of bitter about. She got a 5-star island before me. She had a whole set of the golden tools. She doesn't play it as much anymore because, we've actually been able to go outside a little bit, even though we're still under the mercy of a bunch of idiots who don't seem to understand that, wearing a mask and getting vaccinated is important. Speaking of wear a mask, get vaccinated. Ta-da.
Human decency. What's that?
I know.
I don't know. I mean, we could all take a lesson from Animal Crossing, where anyway, I digress. But we've really connected with each other over this, and my parents have always been more technologically inclined than I am, so they were like, well, you need to connect with people, so they bought me a PlayStation. I invested some money in some games for the PlayStation. I got to reconnect with Resident Evil, which was great because I love the horror games and I love the first-person shooters. But it was really Animal Crossing and then Stardew Valley right now, which is literally what I was playing before recording this, was trying to get my farm up to snuff in Stardew Valley. So just those nice little calm slice of life games that take you back to a simpler time.
All right.
I completely agree. The whole time you were talking, I was just picturing me and my wife and Debbie and my brother and me carrying my son on my chest at PAX in the Animal Crossing booth, which was the most adorable thing. They had people in costumes and you could like pretend to fish, and you were like, it was adorable. And that's all I could picture the whole time you were talking just then, because that game, they couldn't have foreseen it coming out at a more perfect time.
Oh no. And that game actually turned me, well, I was into the concept of Let's Plays before, like please nobody be weirded out, but I know about Markiplier and I know about Lauren Z Side and the YouTubers that do a lot of Let's Plays and a lot of Sims builds, and they were also kind of comforting because even though those channels are very much geared toward younger folks, they're very much geared toward kids, but they really teach you and break down the material and to engage with very easily. Because watching the Animal Crossing YouTubers and making islands and things, that was how I got my island to a 5-star island. I built Westworld.
Yeah.
On my island, and I named it Westworld. And I managed to put many, many horses and collect all of the cowboy things that I wanted. And then I built a Jurassic Park section, and I put all of the dinosaurs in my Westworld area. And then I built a Godzilla section because I said, why not? But the level of control that those games give you, I think, it's more than an RPG, because with an RPG, you choose your character, you choose your race, you choose your class. You're customizing you, and the world revolves around you. But this one gave you a real feeling of control in a way that teaches kids and adults how to be better. And I think that really, apart from the obvious want to get away, and then I don't know if anybody remembers that commercial, but apart from the obvious want to get away commercial with the idea of going to a desert island, I think something that people need to acknowledge about the appeal of that game is that it teaches you what we want the world to be like, which is, cooperative. You trade goods for services, you work, you build a little community, you invite new people into that community, people leave that community if they want to pursue different things. I don't think people really appreciate how much it teaches you about loss and acceptance, and how, and meeting new people, and the stock market. I mean, kids, the people that friends of mine, I never really understood the stock market until I started playing the vegetable market.
Yeah.
Until I started playing the vegetable market, which was perfect for when GameStop stonks became a thing. Greatest tie-in Nintendo ever did. Convince everybody to buy GameStop, and then, after learning how to play it on Animal Crossing, I mean, how could you miss? That didn't really happen, but I think the comparison is actually hilarious as I think about it.
Wow.
All right. So, the games that have been getting me through this garbage fire are just a wee bit different, because, I think this was the middle-ish, or the near, I think it was, let's see, I still had my old laptop that was quite literally melting. And, yeah, it was like, I think the beginning-ish or the middle-ish of 2019, but it took me until, like, the first third of last year to actually beat it. Like, I recently, at that point, bought an installment in a particular RPG series, and not just an RPG series, but, to many people, especially in Japan, it was the RPG series. And so I managed to get, through sheer luck, because, video game prices are ridiculous, a copy of Dragon Quest VII for the 3DS.
Awesome.
And,
Unfamiliar.
yeah. So, Dragon Quest, the game, the RPG that many RPGs probably wouldn't be around if it wasn't for them. And, it took a while to get, used to it, just because you never played, because, to quote Alex Fasciani of the Super Beard Bros, who's also been on this show, go check that video out. He said it's the most straightforward RPG ever, and that, unlike, the original Final Fantasy VII with its real-time battle-y system, or other RPGs, it's just, you're on one side, they're on the other. But, just golly gee, I just after a while I just clicked, and just seeing the classic mechanic loop of just leveling up and see the numbers get higher, and also just kind of Link Between Worlds. It had the standard good Dragon Quest gameplay, but with because it's a decent 3DS remake, they were able to give the theatrical flair that a lot of 3D RPGs and 3D Zeldas have. And just because this is where my mind was at, I also recently watched and then rewatched the completionist episode of Dragon Quest 1. So the first 3 games were at that point recently put onto the Switch. And I decided, hey, I might as well see what the first one is about, I just decided to play 2 Dragon Quest games concurrently, and like they said in their review that you can beat it over the weekend, and I pretty much did. And Chris, a bit of trivia for you: Dragon Quest One for the Nintendo Switch is roughly 8 to 8.5 of your podcasts long.
Fantastic.
But just
Is Dragon Quest 1 the one that was released to the NES as Dragon Warrior?
yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure if they did like a Final Fantasy thing and like the third one was really the first one and all that weird stuff.
Yeah, and I
Is
wouldn't.
Is it called Dragon Quest, so you can get it on the on the Switch?
The first 3 games are on the Switch. And, I didn't beat Dragon Quest VII until like several months later just because it's a massive game comparatively. But when I beat Dragon Quest 1, since I beat that first because it was very short, like for the first time and you reach like the very end, like I don't
Holy moly.
Sense of accomplishment.
Yeah, it's just like you're playing just a huge part of it's just like a part of history. It's like quite literally just a huge part of gaming history. And it's also just an actual good game, which is just always a relief with those kinds of things. But
Dragon Quest 7 is 100+ hours long.
I think I beat it in it took me like slightly over 80 just because,
Wow.
I had to grind a bunch. But and
sorry,
then,
didn't mean to cut you off there.
it's fine.
Wow, I thought it was like 40 or 50. Damn.
And then, just like a few months after that, I finally beat Dragon Quest VII, and I know like the first 3 are what just built the pillars of the franchise because they built everything. But Dragon Quest VII, when I finally I stayed up probably later than I should have to finally truly beat the game, and that I don't know. It's a feeling I haven't felt in a while towards a game or anything that, just your taste in something your taste in entertainment has been permanently shifted in a good way, because I felt a huge sense of accomplishment with Dragon Quest 1 just because, the history, but Dragon Quest 7, well, just because it wasn't as limited as the first game, because decades of advancement, there's actual characters, you go to so many places in the game you actually talk to and then return to the locations to which I thought was just kind of neat, because in certain RPGs you often don't return to a place you visit the first time around. Finally beating the game, which I'm not giving anything away just because that's that game. The story, it's basic, but but like Bob said in the Avengers, it's basic, but it's the best version of it, of that type of story. I've just when I was watching when the credits started, when the theme song played at the very end of the game as the credits rolled, I had never felt such a sense of gaming accomplishment a while, and I was just for a few minutes after the end came up, I was just sat there and just soaked it all in, because just at that moment, at the moment I beat it and the end credits rolled, I know that Dragon Quest 7 is one of my new favorite games that have ever been made, just ever. It's similar to the feeling of when I watched Spirited Away for the first time, and I realized that that's my favorite movie.
Nice.
And yeah, and since then, I've just fallen deeper and deeper into the Dragon Quest hole, and since then I've also beaten 2 and 3, which are also on the Switch. And on my current list of games to play, one of the games is Dragon Quest Builders, which is what if Dragon Quest but also Minecraft stuff.
Hello, yes. Hello, I'm interested.
And I also like there's also just a Dragon Quest anime on Crunchyroll, which I'm currently watching. Which, just since I've recently, since like literally I think like 2 weeks ago, I beat Dragon Quest 3. And since that game takes place like after Dragon Quest 3, I get all like the references and everything. And yeah, like there have been quite a few games, like Animal Crossing has also been like a huge help, but I think Dragon Quest is also like when I started playing Dragon Quest 3, like I pretty much didn't play any other game until I beat it. Like for weeks and weeks and weeks. Just like that's pretty much the only thing I would like as soon as I got home, that's pretty much what I did once like the evening rolled around and it wasn't like boiling. So yeah, that's the game that helped me get through the pandemic, and there have been quite a few others, but we can save that for later.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And so, just pivoting off of that because yeah, we can just, the game, like, as the year in terms of game releases is slowing, and, just because why not, I thought we could all think back to the games of the year of the past few years, just because, like, these have also been just quite a few good years, and so I figured, just so we're not here until, midnight the following day, we'll just say like from like say 2016 to like 2020. So yeah, if either of you have a game from 2016 that was your game of the year, go ahead.
I'm not gonna lie. The strange thing about the pandemic was that was what really, really got me into gaming, despite being aware of it previously. I mean, like I knew it was a thing, and I know that my friends played it. So consider me a spectator in this, because until you get to like 2019, 2020, I don't have a lot of answers. But advertisers, if you're listening and you feel like sponsoring Debbie, my wallet is already crying in protest. So
Nice.
you hear it? It's so sad because it knows I'm gonna have to spend some money on the games I'm about to be recommended because I already just bought Dragon Quest. So
Right? Oh my god.
Mhm.
Yeah, so mine, which I didn't actually play in 2016. I played it later on the Switch, is Doom.
Oh yeah.
Doom was fantastic. What a fantastic remake. And their multiplayer system, again, that's what that franchise has always been known for. They just make perfect fun deathmatch, right? It's just a lot of fun. And I didn't have a good enough computer to play it in 2016, but it came out on the Switch, and I spent a lot of time in work listening to systems run for a big long like 2 week endurance run I had to do, and I just had the Switch there with me, and to be able to take online deathmatch and Doom with you in your pocket is unbelievable, and the game looks as good even today as it did in 2016. So it's a close toss up between that one and The Last Guardian, actually, but those are my two.
Okay, and so yeah, mine. Let's see, the one I actually started playing because it's technically 2015 in all the other parts of the world, but it only actually released in the Americas on January 22nd of 2016, and like I was excited the moment I realized that this game exists. As mine was. And one other one that came out in 2016, but I didn't play it until like 2017 just because life and everything. My game of the year of 2016 was Mario and Luigi Paper Jam.
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard a lot about that. That's the one where you're like in a little paper kingdom and everybody's like, it's like origami.
That is one of my other games of the year, but almost. It's basically like the Mario and Luigi games are like the three, or, like the 3D-ish, like Mario RPGs, where it's all about, memorizing an enemy's pattern, and you can you can dodge their attacks during their turn and like do damage back to them. But the thing is, I'm just like Chris, I'm imagining like back when you and Bob were doing the game Overthinker, and it had like the overarching like story plot, like how
Yep.
Linkara does. Because just like this is because like the Paper Mario games are like the first major video game series I was exposed to as a little Big Debbie. So basically, like Mario, like the 3D Mario and Luigi, like just this isn't like the opening act, so just a heads up. Like Luigi is asked, I guess, to clear out rats in the castle because Luigi, and then he accidentally like bumps into a certain book, and then the book opens, and then like all of the paper equivalent of all of the Mario characters, like Bowser Jr., like like all of his minions, they like just pop out of the paper world and start wrecking up the place, and then Mario and Luigi have to stop him and the two Bowsers from teaming up, which it's just Chris, I'd recommend just looking up like the trailer for it, because you see like the 3D Bowser and paper Bowser just fighting because
Oh,
it's two
I'm watching it.
Bowsers,
I'm watching it soundless right now. It's wonderful.
and they team up with just paper, like Mario and Luigi team up with Paper Mario, which means that just again, like if conditions for everything were perfect, like I would have like given Bob like a whole bunch of money to like make a brief appearance in this call as one of his character personas, the retro thinker, because I want to know like his thoughts about like this confirms like the multiverse exists in like in like the Mario franchise,
Oh
like,
man, he would have so much fun with that.
and like you actually like do, and just you see like the paper counterparts and like the 3D counterparts interacting together, and it's hilarious. And like these are some of my favorite boss fights in like the entire game, which I won't give away just because it's just wonderful to see unfold. And then you see like the two Princess Peaches to get like interacting together, which is just again just really funny because they're like, I don't know, it's like in Enter the Spider-Verse where Miles meets like his Peter Parker, and then he meets the other Peter Parker. Like they're like the basically the same person, but with like the smallest like cosmetic difference. And it's just like I love both of those. Like seeing like both of those like series mashed up together was just awesome. And just because I'm like bad at video games, and because at that point like the company that made this like really just like the game does like kick your butt if you don't like pay attention to the boss patterns, and just like like ugh, like that was my game of the year of 2016.
Now I have to go back and play it.
Yep.
I like the idea of a multiverse in video games. I mean, if we're tapping into that with movies and film, then video games, at least you'd get to be able to do more. And I mean, I know they've done that. There's Kingdom Hearts and stuff. Just I didn't know that Mario had tapped into it too. That's neat.
Yeah. So, and I guess the Mario RPGs are always where like the series gets the most weird.
Yep.
Like, just like the 3D Marios are like generally the more just like conventional sort of like story beats for like gaming franchises, but like paper. Like I remember the first Paper Mario, just like how it opens with like Bowser like already won, and he's like acquired like the Mario equivalent of like the friggin' Infinity Gauntlet, and how he and like how like the first ally of the game is Goombario, and like the Goomba family realized that they named their child that like in honor of Mario, even though like Mario is to Goombas what the Doctor from Doctor Who is to the Daleks, i.e., like a nightmare demon thing that you really don't want to meet.
Bad bedtime story to tell your children.
Yeah. So yeah, moving. I guess we'll move the numbers up a bit, and we'll move on to like 2017. So, do either of you have a game of the year of 2017?
I do.
Sure, go ahead.
It's a very, very, very hard toss up between two, but the winner is Breath of the Wild because come on, it's just incredible.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful game. They somehow figured out a way to make a game that I have as much fun just turning on and wandering around in as much as I have playing the main quest. And I don't mean that there aren't any other games that have done that, but this one does that while being just pretty and fun instead of a Grand Theft Auto, which, believe me, I've had a ton of fun in, but all of the fun to be had in that game is being nasty. Whereas in Breath of the Wild, you can kind of just go, hey, I'm going to go wander over there today and see what's going on. And you can kind of just enjoy the scenery and cut down some trees and get some mushrooms and some meat and cook up some potions and just have a grand old time. They really found a great balance. It was great to see Nintendo go, hey, we can do Shadow of the Colossus, but better. And I love Shadow of the Colossus. That was kind of Sony and those guys who make beautiful games going, hey, we can do a Zelda game, but it's kind of like what if Zelda but with Christopher Nolan at the helm. It's kind of it's kind of more gritty, ultra real, and this game kind of found a cool way to meld that in. It's just a perfect experience. It's a hell of a game. And then on the other end of the coin, there's Super Mario Odyssey, which
Yes.
I still pick up to this day and just go, how do they keep one-upping themselves? Like, I thought returning to more world-based platforming would be a step back after Super Mario Galaxy was so good that they made it twice. It didn't feel like it missed a beat. In fact, I loved how each world had completely different play mechanics in Super Mario Odyssey. It brought new things to the table, full of incredible Easter eggs, especially in New Donk City, and nods to the other games. And so those are my two.
Yeah.
I actually can offer a 2017 game on the complete and total opposite end of the spectrum of both classic Dynasty games that have fan bases that are, very child friendly, to classic Dynasty games that aren't friendly but definitely rebooted the franchise, because my 2017 game of the year is Resident Evil 7.
Oh, yes.
Completely rebooted everything from Capcom's wannabe Call of Duty, completely destroying my favorite evil mystery / zombie game, into a completely new mystery / zombie game that paved the way for one of my 2020 games of the year, which Debbie knows, and we'll get to that later. But
Can't wait.
2017's Resident Evil was a return to the first time that I played Resident Evil 2 for me. And my brother would sneak into the room that we had my GameCube on, and he blamed me until he grew older for his fear of zombies, because the zombies were just creeping out of everything and they were so scary. And he used to sneak into the room thinking that he was being a tough little kid. And then he'd run away crying, insist that I turn off the game with the scary zombies. And honestly, the mechanics and the choices that they made with 7, as well as the puzzles, were just absolutely twisted. It was a return to form. And for the first time, you were coming in as a protagonist who had no special military training, who had absolutely nothing. Ethan is like a software analyst whose wife has special military training.
I want to punch him.
Yeah, no, I totally do too. The most disappointing thing that when they did it was the face reveal in 8. Like, honestly, the face reveal in 8 just made it 10 times worse. He's the world's most likable and unlikable protagonist for the game, especially when you face Chris. But Chris Redfield is another example of growth, because Chris Redfield being just done with everybody's bullshit is the best Chris Redfield ever. Just you're just gonna do what I tell you, and I'm like, you deserve this, Chris. You deserve this. Props to you. But the mold monsters and the family and the games, the mini games with, you know, the where you're trying to get the extra points, involving that creepy backwoods family, like, they just tapped into a whole other thing. Sometimes it feels like Capcom and games, horror games in particular, sometimes it feels like they understand a lot more American culture than I think people give them credit for, because a lot of people don't want to tap into like that whole backwoods family, you know, Deliverance kind of thing. But Capcom was like, you know, yeah, this is fertile territory. Let's go with it. And it's such a change from, you know, a lot of American first person shooter games, at least to me, where you have, you know, a set target and you put the gameplay over when you're trying to do a video. You know, talking about internet drama, because that's usually, I've been watching a lot of internet drama videos on YouTube lately, because all of our lives are spiraling downward. And what I've noticed is most people put Call of Duty gameplay when they're talking about internet drama, so that, you know, you have a video in the background, so it's not just you talking. And at least when you're playing, like, you know, Resident Evil or Silent Hill, and man, every time I see Kojima-san, I'm like, oh, I miss PT.
Yep.
It was years ago, but I miss, to this day, I miss what we could have had.
Yep.
So yeah, that's my 2017 game of the year, Resident Evil 7, and then Spider-Man. But I think everybody kind of universally agrees that the Spider-Man mechanics were just some of the best. I actually got to play that for the first time in 2020, and I loved it so much that I bought the Miles Morales expansion. So
yeah, they're wonderful games.
Aren't they great? Aren't they great? They do seem very basic when you get down to it. But like, sometimes when you're like me and you're trying to get into stuff for the first time, and you're trying to reconnect with your Super Nintendo where you played Duck Hunt, with the little orange gun, you know, the basic stuff's the best stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that you picked a Resident Evil game, because I'm just such a giant fan. And 7 was 5 and 6. I almost just pretended don't exist, and 7 was so good.
Well, you mean 5 and 6, the Call of Duty spinoffs, because that's what they were.
Yes. The not Resident, because 4 is one of my favorite of the entire franchise, and then it's like, wow, you just kind of forgot, didn't you, for a little while, guys? Jesus.
It's not supposed to be about, I mean, it's supposed to be about bioweapons, but you're never supposed to actually be in the middle of like, your combat's supposed to be close and personal. It's supposed to be hunting you, not like, oh, I'm in the middle of a war zone, here come the things.
Yep.
It's like, no. This
different game.
Is that game Halo? Because
yes, exactly.
Halo is the game that does that the right way. I love me some Halo. Thank you very much. But yeah, that's my 2017 game of the year.
Okay, so I know. Yeah, one of mine is obviously like Super Mario Odyssey, like just because it was like the biggest buzz It's like New Donk City. It's always fun. You know, Pauline is back, and she's now
Mhm.
like a recurring character in like she's a playable character in Mario Golf Super Rush, which is neat. And just that was just so much fun. This like just like the fact that the ship is a giant hat, and just I remember spending so much time in like the first world, just like trying to get all the things, only to realize you need to wait till you beat the other worlds before you can get it, and just like everyone is just like just amazingly designed. Like the main bad guys are a bunch of evil wedding planners. Like, yeah, there's this one, like the cook world where all the people are like fork people, and you're swimming in like lava that's pretty much just like giant, just like stew. Like New Donk City, because it's like just a city with buildings, and you can get so friggin' high up that the music stops. And just some of like the friggin' boss you fight when you first get there, it's like some sort of demon centipede thing. And just like every single world has been awesome. And then there's the one part of the game where it just turns into Dark Souls for like half an hour.
Loved it.
And you fight what is gotta be just like a Dark Souls boss. And it's awesome. And like all of the costumes that I never realized just how most of them were callbacks to like other like past Mario titles and other things. And how it's like the very end when you've beaten the game and you get to the Princess Peach's castle world, one of the outfits you can buy makes you look like regular like janky Mario 64 Mario. Just like completely down to like the last detail.
I think you mean the best Mario. Mario 64 was a good Mario for me.
Yeah,
I
it
agree.
was.
I just played through
And
it again with my daughter and forgot how friggin' hard it was.
oh yeah. And then just like I don't know, the outfits just like the best part, just because you can make yourself look like a freaking train wreck if you feel like it. And just like a favorite like little detail that Laura Kate Dale pointed out is that just the one of the outfits you can get at the end of the game, which is like a copy of Peach's wedding dress. It's like says in like the little blurb that describes each of the costumes that that's a dress Mario had tailored to like his body. So I just I don't know. Just part of me is kind of looking forward to someone discovering this and getting genuinely mad about it, just so I can laugh at it. Like like the most iconic face in video game history canonically enjoys wearing like pretty dresses as much as he enjoys like I don't know, dressing up like a friggin' scuba person and running around in like the ice levels.
Love it.
And
Mario dresses as a cat. Like in his most recent game, he's got the cat outfit. So
oh yeah.
I'd not be surprised if Mario has fun in many other ways.
And my other game of the year of 2017, which started out as a 3DS game, but that year got like a Nintendo Switch port with like all manner of extra goodies, is a franchise like I fell in love with. I think way back in the day when I was just starting college, and the latest installment, which I want another one of now soon, please. It's been like 4 years at this point. Is Catriel, Layton, and the Millionaire's Conspiracy, which, for those of you who don't know, is like the latest installment in the Professor Layton series of games. And just like, oh, I remember just because like the best part is like the cut scenes in the game are like fully animated, like a movie, like almost like Ghibli quality, and it's just like all of the games are, and it's awesome. because you get to hear like the characters' voices, and they actually like did like a movie entirely that animated style, which and I would highly recommend you check it out because it's also one of the very few good like video game movies, just because it's based on like the cutscene style. Like it's just like the character well in Professor well, like the Professor Layton games, like the main characters look like just regular people.
Right.
But then it does that thing that they always do in cartoons that, give people head and body shapes that like literally like don't exist because that's not the way the human body like forms in terms of like muscle and bones, but it's awesome. And I just remember yeah, it's fully voice acted, and just like a detail they've like really nailed in like the later Professor Layton games that's still present here is that, if you just like if you ever play one of these games, like the background is like the sheer level of like detail in like some of the backgrounds, especially when they travel all around the world, because like Professor Layton is basically like an extremely chill, very British version of like Indiana Jones. Like the level of like detail in all these like weird exotic towns is just amazing. And again, like I wish they could do it with like the entire each of the games, which I guess they can't just because budget, but like I can't stress enough just how awesome like the animated like cutscenes are. And like I was so friggin' psyched because even though like because like the Professor Layton game is all about like, brain teasers and like riddles and like puzzles. Like in the first game, one of the first puzzles is like you have three animals, you have to get them all on the other side, but they'll either eat each other or run away if like two of them are on the same place or left alone. And I just, they still do those like types of like brain teaser puzzles. And, again, it's awesome just because they still because in each of the puzzles, like in order to as like a framing device, because they do like they continue to use like the bizarre exotic art style. And this I was really surprised, like, because technically the last Professor Layton game that Professor Layton appeared in before this installment was another like favorite game of mine that is also just a friggin' trip, is like Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright, which is a game for another day, just because just like I like it's just one of those games that you feel like even it's like when you like just like I don't know, drink a really strong drink of something because you need something to bring you down from what like the thing you just watched, because you can't because like the Phoenix Wright and the Professor Layton games are like completely different in terms of like gameplay and just tone. And Phoenix is just such a Phoenix is basically like, what if you take like the nerdiest, most face punchable parts of Christopher Reeve's portrayal of Clark Kent and make that a character, but without the Superman under it. And then you have him with like Professor Layton, who is like the chillest guy, like the type of guy that if for whatever reason like he was watching your children, he would like somehow take them on an Indiana Jones adventure, and then like by the time you got home, Chris, he somehow like taught like your grade school age daughter and your still baby son how to like, I don't know, read something as complicated as like Bram Stoker's Dracula and like do an analysis on it. And just like, and Catriel is awesome because it's kind of like like a Doctor Who thing where the Doctor is this like big old goofball, but then you're like, oh wait a minute, they're like a friggin' genius, and you like realize she is too. And then they throw in the detail that, she eats entire restaurants worth of food whenever she goes anywhere, and then like her two sidekicks are just like, come on, we got a mystery. And like, I really want the next game in that series just because I love the combination. It's like much like how Phoenix Wright is a combination of like visual novel and like adventure game because of how the courtroom system works. Like this is a combination, like the type of like this sheer amount of character detail you get in a visual novel, but with like the weird sort of like brain teaser puzzles that make me genuinely angry whenever I play them, but I still play them. So yeah, Catriel Layton is like my game of the year of 2017, just because it's like such the opposite of like all other types of games of that year.
Okay.
Love it.
So now we'll just click the number up again to 2018.
Chris, I'm gonna let you handle that because definitely, as I
Sure.
go through my games.
Sure. So 2018 is an interesting year for me. The game I'm picking for game of the year has a caveat that I have a runner-up that I feel like I'm putting as a runner-up because I don't really know how to classify it. And the game of the year I'm picking is strange because I've never actually played it, but I've watched a playthrough of it because when it came out, I didn't have a PS4.
Mm-hmm.
And my game of the year, the main game of the year is God of War because I've not seen a game reinvent a franchise and make it be about so much more and so much more meaning than what they did there. They took you know, a good old fashioned, run around, hack 'em, slash 'em up game, which the original God of Wars were, and made it be something with meaning, almost like a Conan the Barbarian or something else like that. And I just loved it for it, and it's starkly different than what I usually go to. I'm either usually like a survival horror fan, um, or Nintendo. And then throw in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and Rock Band and stuff like that. But this version of God of War really struck me. But I don't have much more to say about it other than that because it's just a really good game.
Mm-hmm.
But my runner-up, which I don't want to call it Game of the Year because it's not quite a game. It's something different. Is Labo, and
Yeah.
a lot of people didn't take to it, but I love Nintendo because I love that they've used the Switch as a jumping off point for them to be weird still. Nintendo has always made entertainment systems. That's been their goal. Sony, Xbox, Microsoft, their bells and whistles, the things they add are more of a community gaming experience. They had that before Nintendo. There was like, this is like a PC, but it's a console. You can watch your movies on it. Nintendo always wanted their gimmicks to be more about entertainment and gaming. And as soon as I saw the commercial for Labo, I went, I don't care if that fails. That is 100% for me.
Okay,
Like, it
what
you
is
know,
Labo?
okay. So what Labo is Labo is technically a video game, but what it is it's a video game where the game is instructions to build these cardboard things that are then interactive devices that your console interacts with. So you stick like the controllers into it, and one has like an IR sensor and one has the camera, and it becomes a new controller to play the game. And like, it's basically a big tech demo, right? To show off what the Switch can do. But like the first one you get comes with a thing that turns your Switch controller into a motorcycle, and you can drive it around, and you can use it to play Mario Kart if you want. And then another one is like it becomes like a fishing rod, and you can fish, and like it actually reacts. Like if you pull in and pull out and pull on the rope, it turns a crank which the controller reads and makes it look and have feedback and feel like a fish is tugging on the line. There's one where you build a piano, and the controller actually reads what key you're playing and changes the sound. Then the other one they released is just a full-on robot suit you put on that like has wires and bells and whistles and cords that attach to it, and you control a robot in a game. They went further and made like a VR version of it where you wear the Switch and like an eye thing, and it does like a cheap version of like Sony VR, which was a lot of fun. But what I really like about it is it's interactive. The funnest part of the game is the Lego instructions in the Labo itself that show you how to put these cardboard things together. Then Nintendo further went and took the technology and used it to make Mario Kart Live Home Circuit, which again is less a game, even though you can play a full Mario Kart game in it, and more an entertainment experience, which is what I thought and think Nintendo has always been striving for. I'm just glad that they made it as part of the Switch and didn't like lead with it. The Switch is like, let's get the people in there with, we're promising them another Mario, we're promising them another Zelda, we're promising them, they're going to have Skyrim and Doom, and they can take that. It was really a brilliant marketing ploy on their part. But what they're really doing is, we want to have another version of Robbie the Robot and the zapper gun like we had with the original NES when you bought it in this Labo thing. And I really hope they keep it up. I have 3 or 4 different versions of it, and they're all wonderful. They really are.
So it's like a interactive, like a sort of collaborative building thing. Like if you got Lego instructions, but you're getting them from a video game company.
Yes, correct. And they sell you all the cardboard. It's literally like quick printed cardboard stuff that you build, and if if it breaks, or you can just order more. It's kind of ingenious. And what they've done now, which it's not really a video game, but they've taken that same thought process and integrated it into the Mario Legos, which work kind of in a similar way. It's a phone app. There's no Lego instructions. It's a phone app, and it's live, and you click it and you can zoom the thing around, and it shows you what it's going to do and shows you how Mario interacts with it. My daughter and I got the Luigi set today, and we spent 3 hours earlier tonight, and I just sat there and watched her. She knew exactly how to use the app, 6 years old, and built a really complicated Lego set and started playing with it with Mario, and it blew my mind.
It's interesting that I think the future of entertainment and the future of gaming will be, the future of entertainment in general will be more things like that, because that reminded me, not necessarily of gaming, but it reminded me of how a lot of like family entertainment centers, or at least Disney's whole thing lately has been like those immersive experiences, and it's got like, you have I don't know if anybody saw the article on Nerdist, which I knew nothing about and kind of freaked me out as it is, that they're introducing walking audio animatronics to the park. So
holy moly.
You'll be able to, yeah, it's on Nerdist. The WDI was building this apparently, but they had a robot Groot from Marvel, and you can meet Groot, and Groot will go up to you and interact with you. And they're like, okay, well, why can't we build, stuff with Star Wars and, build the Star Wars monsters? Why can't we build, X, Y, and Z? And the thing that a lot of people don't realize is that in Star Wars Land, the original idea was that it was supposed to be a fully immersive experience, and it comes with a game. It comes with an app game just like that, where you go around the land and you're supposed to collect prizes, and you're supposed to collect points, and your points influence what happens to you in the land. So I would expect to see a lot more stuff like that. Not saying I know anything. I'm just saying, like, I would honestly expect to see a lot more stuff like that. And kids these days are far more prepared for it than the rest of us, which I think is both scary and incredibly impressive. Like, you can put, I see people, and they put like their 2-year-olds in front of the phone, and the 2-year-olds can use Amazon and order stuff on Amazon, and that just weirds me out.
So it's funny, again, I'm going to have a side conversation and probably have you on my show, because Disney fascinates me, and I love talking to people that are working there now. In 2015, we went to a wedding in Florida, and I said, you know what? We have a day. We're going to go to the Magic Kingdom. Me and my wife have both been before, We're like, you know what? If we're down there, we're just gonna go. We don't have a lot of time. We're just gonna go. And I hadn't been in like 11 years. And I don't know if you knew this. I don't know where they've gone with this since then. But the big thing that they had right then was that when you met Mickey Mouse, he was an animatronic head.
Mm-hmm.
And I have never, like, we weren't sure how my daughter was going to react. She loved it because we go into this back room and Mickey's supposed to be a magician. And you're like in like the magician's like green room, right? And he's getting ready. And he turns around and says, "Hi, Ava. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Mickey Mouse." And I completely lost my mind. I turned to my wife. There were tears coming. I go, "This is magic." Like it's like I felt at 6 when I went to Disney the first time. I go, "This is magic. It's fucking Mickey Mouse." Like I was just like, there it is. Like it blew my mind. And I this is what I love about Disney is they always find ways to make and we're talking a lot about Nintendo too, right? It's that core. They always find a way to find that core thing that worked and always make it magic somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it.
It's the immersive. I really do think that it comes down to the immersive experiences. I mean, like Debbie talks about when you Mario games is stuff for a good example. You have to have a world. You have to be in the middle of a world, and you have to influence the world. That's the next level for, I think, everything entertainment. It's not just enough to, and you see it progress. I mean, it's not just enough to sit and be told a story. And you have to participate in the story, and then you have to influence the story, and then the story has to be influenced specifically to your needs. And you see that and I think there's no better example of that truthfully than in video games, because if you consider like the old I know I'm going to get these wrong, and I'm sorry because I'm young and stupid apparently, but the Caterpillar game, the very first video games, there was the little man and he swung, and the Pong obviously, and then there was the caterpillar that just went through and ate things. And it's like all of those are very basic. They're just telling you a story. It's like, you barely interact with the environment, then the interaction deepens, then the interaction continues to deepen, but the interaction deepens and you get Duck Hunt and you get Super Mario. Then it deepens more and you get like the original Resident Evil games. Then it deepens even more and you get like phone games and you get pay to play games, and then it just keeps going and going. And I think Debbie, your recount of this is really fascinating to me because it's pointing out a real timeline that even now, like, stories are definitely getting more and more. And I say interactive and it seems like a buzzword, but the truth is you're able to do a lot more in God of War than you were in the first one, and that's just story growth.
Right.
So 2 cents. Anyway, Debbie, your game.
Let's see. So I forgot just how many games that came out in 2018 because I actually have. Let's see. Hold on.
It was a great year.
3, just because it was. Well, on the indie side was a game that was hyped to hell and back, and for good reason, was The Messenger. It's just like Ninja Gaiden, but without the horrible, filthy, awful garbage controls that I know definitely would have caused me to get so angry I would have had to take some Advil for the resulting stress headache. But yeah, it's like, Ninja Gaiden, but good. And then there's like where it switches between 2D and 3D and just and how it's like partless like regular level platformer, and then it gets all Metroidvania-y and the boss fights are like I think my favorite, just because in those types of games they always are, and it was the toast of the town at the time. And then moving on to just mainstream, another game came out that was friggin' just psyched beyond all belief for was Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu,
Yay!
which is just a remake of like the original generation of games, but with all manner of bells and whistles. In contrast to Sword and Shield, like all the characters still have the shortish but giant heads, because as is tradition, and they find like a mechanic that's still continuing to this day, where instead of just random grass battles, you actually see the Pokemon in the grass walking around, living their lives, and and it's actually like genuine. Like the story is actually genuinely different than like the originals, because instead of having a friggin' smug jerk Blue/Gary as your rival, you just have an original character, Do Not Steal, as your friendly neighbor. Which I like him just because he is like Ash Ketchum levels of oblivious, where he's like, there's this one Pokemon that talked, and instead of just fighting just standard Team Rocket grunts, you actually do just go up against Jesse and James, just like regularly. And only in this game, like the Meowth doesn't talk.
Yep.
And which is just funny, and like of course like the best part, which thankfully I think they've like brought back with like the Sword and Shield DLC, is the Pokemon that you have going first in your party like follows you around, and the best part is like certain Pokemon you can like ride. Like you can ride like friggin' Dodrio, which just instantly brings back to mind, like, to me, in the episode of the anime, the Flame Pokemonathon, which to just like the briefest summary for you two, which Chris, when we're able to like hang out in person, I am gonna make you watch that one, because it's one of my
Oh yeah.
favorites from my childhood. It's basically Wacky Races but Pokemon, and you can just like, if you ride like a Kangaskhan, you like ride like your Pikachu just is in its pouch along with the baby Kangaskhan, because for those not in the know in Pokemon, Kangaskhan's are an entire species of moms. Like imagine a mom that just can like imagine this, like, yeah, like moms that can like friggin' hit like a truck because they're like dinosaur kangaroo things.
I love Kangaskhan, but I'm still bitter about Kangaskhan and Pokemon Snap, because I finally got to a point in Snap where I could take pictures of her and she doesn't want to move. So I keep tossing apples at her, and then I feel bad because I'm throwing apples at at what amounts to a parent.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then and if you ever like something I will bring up the next time you two are on my other show, which I will plug at the end, is like in the most recent season of Pokemon, it actually shows like where Ash's Pikachu came from and how it was like raised by. I'm gonna give this away because they give it away in the trailer, and just this is one of the few things where at least me telling you won't like spoil the experience, because it's not like built like that. But basically, when Pikachu was a Pichu, which is like the baby pre-evolved form, like it was just a stray on its own, and it was raised by a Kangaskhan and its baby. And just when Kangaskhan's are babies, they're like small and purple, because why not? And then at the end, the Pichu that will one day become Ashes evolves into Pikachu, and like in game, the way you get a Pichu to evolve is if you like have high friendship, like which basically in the game means you heal it, you give it foods and everything, and then you see at the end, because it was so well taken care of, it evolves into a Pikachu and then can go on its way. Anyway, but just like Pokemon, like Let's Go Pikachu, just like it was friggin' awesome because, again, it's like the new visual style just really presents like the old story of like Red and Blue as like a completely new experience. Like some of the scenes, like when you're in spooky ass Lavender Town and ghosts are happening because Pokemon just, as someone who has, undertaken one of the most Herculean tasks in podcasting, like, I can say like Pokemon gets friggin' dark, like real dark, especially like some of the early games. But yeah, just and I would like it's amazing. Just there are no more wild Pokemon battles, so we can actually skip quite a bit of it, and like you earn experience by catching lots and lots of Pokemon, which is neat. And there's still like battles with the trainers, but there really are no like wild battle. You don't like actually battle with the wild Pokemon, and it's amazing how it doesn't really like take away from the game at all. And yeah, like it's Pokemon. It's basically Pokemon Red again, but like in my opinion, like one of the best versions. And like the other game that came out that year was, I think, did it come out this year? Now I gotta check because I can't remember because time is a blur. Is Kirby Star Allies?
Mm.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's just I just love Kirby. Like Kirby's friggin' adorable. Like one of my favorite 3DS games is Kirby Planet Robobot, which is when Kirby gets a friggin' mech. And just Kirby Star Allies. It's like the first like co-op Kirby game since Return to Dreamland. And they still keep the freaking tradition of every time you pick up a healing item, you can heal like the other players by literally like giving them a little kiss. And just because it's friggin' Kirby, and just again, much like I don't know, like the freaking tonal like whiplash you get from like Phoenix Wright meeting Professor Layton. Literally every single Kirby game since I think the very first one, like the most of the like 95% of the game is just Kirby and friends like traveling through the levels, having fun, being cute, chubby things, and then at the end of the game, you always end up like fighting a monster that like comes out of like some sort of cosmic horror story. Like
It's cute. It's totally.
You fight a monster that was like resurrected by some sort of insane cultist, and then you get to like the part of the game where you can pause it and read the boss's like info description, and it's just like this boss is the embodiment of like the void of the universe, and it exists for nothing else but to like destroy everything everywhere, and just like and then you end up like fighting it in a way that can only be described as, I don't know, like the part of like Avengers Infinity War when they're fighting Thanos on Titan, and he's just like chucking planets at you and just using like the gauntlet in the most extreme version. Just like it's like Kirby, you're fighting things that it like has become like a meme in the Kirby community. You start with like something simple like Kirby wanting a slice of cake, and then you're like fighting some sort of demented, monstrous, demonic outer god from like beyond the realm of mortal understanding, and then you beat it, and then you go right back to Kirby and his friends having cute, fun baby adventures. It's just like every time they do it, like literally every time, and it's just like it always takes you by surprise because you're like you never expect to be like, this is how you fight like the unknowable cosmic horror thing in Kirby. It's just like, and like Kirby Star Allies I think is like the most demented friggin' final boss yet. And then when I got to it, I just you're still kind of reeling from that whiplash. And so yeah, those are my 3 games of 2018.
Awesome.
Those are good games.
Now we'll click on by to 2019.
I can actually answer 2019's, and one is, unfortunately, I have to take a page from Chris's book and say one I haven't played, but I need to play. I should play. I'll probably lose a ton of cool points for not playing, and that game is Death Stranding.
Same here.
Because that game is on an entire other level, and as people pointed out, the irony of that game coming out in 2019 when after everything that happened in 2020 is lost on no one. But the visually stunning, absolutely beautiful. I wish it was the property that we thought he was going to do. No, because I haven't even seen a let's play from it. It's like this like holy grail. It's like there's this. Okay, so one of my favorite movies of all time, and I'll be as brief as I can because I want to. This has to make sense. My reference has to make sense. One of my favorite movies of all time is Nicolas Cage's Gone in 60 Seconds. And in the movie, I know a lot of people wouldn't think that, but in the movie, the whole thing, I love Nicolas Cage. And the whole thing is his character has a unicorn. It has one car that he's never been able to steal. He calls it his unicorn. And I think because they use women's names, I think the car's name might actually have been Debbie or Denise.
I think you're right.
And so his unicorn is the car that he's never been able to steal. And Death Stranding is the game I've never been able to play. It's my unicorn, and one day I will play it, and one day I will experience Norman Reedus as a disgruntled post-apocalyptic Uber driver / Grubhub deliverer. Because that's what I think of every time I think of delivery. And just the whole mythos. But my friend, I still have it. My friend who's a much bigger gamer than I am, but I'm a big gamer. My friend who's a much bigger gamer than I am, she lent me the art book a while back, and I have not returned it. And it's definitely something that I look at periodically. So that's one. And then the other one that I've played that is Control. I loved Control, and I loved the very strange connection to Alan Wake. The
Love
unusual
Alan Wake.
Alan Wake is really good, and the fact that it was connected to Control really threw me off because Control is it to me it almost was like Black Widow. It was just a very spy oriented, very strange sort of game. And my brother actually bought it when my parents helped me get a PS4, and my brother was playing it, and ironically last year. And we were playing it, and I was just like, this game is really good. And then I found out it was connected to Alan Wake, and I was like, oh my god. So those two are probably my two 2019 games. And it's very simple and very concise, admittedly, but what else are you going to do with one game that you kind of lust after and the other game that you're still trying to figure out? You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's awesome. Mine are Untitled Goose Game because it's perfect in its simplicity. It's just wonderful. It's just I keep going back to it, and when they released the 2-player mode, it just made it even more fun. It's you control a horrible goose and you annoy people, and it's just great.
It's hard. They don't talk about how hard it is.
It is very hard.
Oh, it is.
It is very hard, but it's very rewarding. And it's a lot of fun. I like games that are just, well, what's the point of this game? It's a puzzle, and we're not really going to tell you what to do, and you just kind of have to get there. And I enjoyed it a lot. The other is the Resident Evil 2 remake.
Yes.
Because Resident Evil 2 is one of the first game. I got a PlayStation right around it was the Christmas after Final Fantasy VII came out. It almost broke my brother that I had a non-Nintendo system in our house. But it was the first console I ever owned on my own. And I remember playing Resident Evil. I rented it from Video Craze right down the street in downtown Lynn, and I also rented Metal Gear Solid. And then hearing Resident Evil 2 was going to come out, that was the game I had to have, and it was a perfect experience, beginning to end, with both characters, and for them to take it and integrate it with the brilliant Switch and gameplay that they used in Resident Evil 4 it's just perfection. The Resident Evil 2
Mhm.
remake it's a perfect survival horror game. It's just great.
Preach.
And I have a runner up, and it's because again, Tetris it's like Pong. You know what I mean? There's just it's a simple concept and it's evergreen. And you can, look at it and anyone can play it, but there's people that are just masters at it. And Tetris 99 is the perfect example of how you bring those worlds together. If I know Debbie, you've heard of it. Have you heard of Tetris 99?
I have
No.
not.
So Tetris 99, and they've now updated it because it's free. It's a free to play online game on the Switch, but they've updated it so you can pay for a version of it where you get single player Tetris as well. So you get all the other modes that Tetris would normally have. But what Tetris 99 is at its barest core is you log online, 98 other people are teamed up against you, and you all play Tetris against each other all at once. And you can hone in on certain people, and you get a Tetris and you can attack them and add, so kind of like the normal 2-player Tetris, but 99 of you are playing at the same time, and it's a death match basically, but you're just playing the one screen of Tetris. It's very fast paced, and you get, some place. I've never been able to get better than 18th place in the whole 2 years I've played the game. But it's just fast paced and wonderful and fun. You pick it up, you play it, you put it down, you move on with your life. It's Tetris basically merged with free to play cell phone game, is the best way I can describe it. And it rocks. I think they've also done a similar thing with Super Mario Brothers, if
Okay.
I'm not mistaken.
I
Is
think
that
so.
is that true? They have Super Mario Brothers 99 where you basically do a time trial of the first level of Mario against other people or whatever. And I don't know, it's a wonderful concept and it works really well. And because it's on the Switch and because Nintendo really, in waiting for the whole online thing a little bit later than everyone else, does wonderful things where it'll be themed when you turn it on to something else they're trying to sell. So when the Mario Golf game came out, it was skinned to have a Mario Golf look to it. And hey, you just got 18th place in Tetris 99. You interested in trying out Mario Golf? Here's a demo. And it, instead of it being annoying like a cell phone game, I was like, yeah, Nintendo, I really do, because you just made Tetris 99 look really cool, and now I want to play your game. And so they're really rocking this integrated entertainment thing, I really feel.
Okay.
So that's mine.
Yeah, so mine will come as no surprise to any who know me. The first one I think of, because I remember picking it up the day it released on Halloween of 2019, and I'm talking, of course, of Luigi's Mansion 3.
It's so good.
So, yeah, and one of the things I liked, which is one of the things everyone else liked, is how it kind of took the best bits of Luigi's Mansion 1 and 2 and just kind of just jammed them together, and means it takes place in one singular huge location filled with spooky ghosts, because Luigi's Mansion were the Ghostbuster games before the Ghostbuster game everyone talks about that got remastered was released. And yeah, and just the game is friggin' just gorgeous. First of all, a lot of the game takes place with like the hotel shiny floors. And you get your new vacuum, and also the ghost dog that Luigi adopted from the second game is back because no one would be that foolish because Nintendo knows everyone loves a good boy.
Yes.
And just it's King Boo, like he's friggin' Luigi's Bowser. And something I've seen, because like I always look up like TV tropes of like video game characters over and over again, like, and something I've noticed having replayed the three games a few times is that you can solely like see King Boo's like genuine descent into like sincere mental instability, because in the first game he's just like, oh, you're going to try and stop me, you're the green one, I already captured your brother, you're the green one. And then you beat
There's
him,
the red and the green one. I like it.
and then you beat him and friggin' and then Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon comes out, which I was psyched at. Like I think that was, yeah, I remember that was when Iwata Asks was like just the fresh new thing on Nintendo's website, and just instead of just one mansion, you go to like 5, and Chris, someday someday we're gonna have an extended talk about like the Luigi's Mansion games, just because as a person who's like the most of into horror, as of all like the people I know, just like basically like every like haunted location archetype that you can think of, from like spooky mansion to spooky mansion but it's tall, to like abandoned mine, to like abandoned ice place where they're all gonna freeze or get eaten by the thing that is trying to escape the ice. It's just like a hodgepodge. And anyway, Luigi's Mansion 1, you're in just like one like Resident Evil style kinda. Like you're in just like the one mansion, and you unlock more areas as you go, because of course. And and yeah, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, like something people complained about but I didn't really mind, is like it's broken down, like each mansion has like a set of levels, like break down like mission style. And you get beamed back into like the hub in between each level, and they're like separate mansions, like completely, like again, just location wise look completely different from each other. And then Luigi's Mansion 3 has like the best possible middle ground, because you're still in like that one singular location trying to get all them spooky ghosts. But because it's a huge ass hotel with like different floors. Each floor is like a different thing. Like the lobby is just the lobby, and like the floor where Luigi's rooms are is just like the floor with the rooms. And then there's this one room that's like basically a shopping center. And then there's another room that's like the musical theater, the classically, it's structured like in like a classically structured like musical auditorium. And just again, all manner of like ghost cliches, like all the horror movie like tropes, but like filtered through like Nintendo's particular flavor of like G rating, which isn't that G.
Job.
Yeah, I loved it because again, like the level design is awesome, and it's just like a thing just I've come to appreciate from Nintendo specifically, just because I'm hugely biased in Nintendo's favors, is like the sheer amount of detail. And like the Luigi's Mansion game, they actually make like the mansions in like the first two games like look like real places, like it's built like the way a house is built, and like there's the foyer, there's like the guest rooms, there's like the place where the kitchen happens, there's the hallway that connects to the rest of it, like it's structured like an actual building. And they still have that in Luigi's Mansion. Like all of the floors, they're like built like a floor. Like you get into the music room, there's like the main auditorium, there's the place where they take the tickets, there's the dressing room, and the same goes for all of them. And I freaking it's just so good. And then there's and then they freaking introduce Luigi, just because like and the it's just it's friggin' amazing just because the locations are so insanely detailed that like each part of each location feels like a separate level in itself. And yeah, and then my other game of the year, which again will come as no surprise, and the game that unfortunately started a controversy that is like not a controversy, like a non-traversy. Like people made like a big, just like this genuinely makes me angry because as any adult who plays video games knows, is like the game industry is much more messed up than this. But it's like I'm talking about Pokemon Sword and Shield, which I was psyched about because again, this like I remember like in the trailers when they first show off the wild area, which is basically like the free roaming parts of the game where you can like catch different Pokemon in different parts of it, and then there's like the fact that even certain parts in like the more linear routes you can still like adjust the camera and anything, and like still even in like the linear route parts of the game, like you still just it's still like the Pokemon are just walking around, so you just see them just like being animals, and like it's freaking amazing. Like they made like it's not quite like the free roamingness of like Breath of the Wild, but it's kind of their design is similar in the sense that Breath of the Wild, like it's a friggin' sort of sandbox game, but it also makes you realize but it also like because of the design like conveys just like how big it like is. Like it's a huge. There's tons of stuff to do, but it's also like it's huge. Like when you're just like walking from like one area, even when you're like running or just riding a horse, it's like such a huge, massive world that it feels big. And like even in like the linear parts, it just like they just make it feel just even like the straight line parts of the game, it feels huge just because like the graphics have gotten to the part where they're able to like convey like this is like a country.
Right.
And just I loved it, like the like some of the Pokemon, like I started with Grookey, which is the green monkey, and just like I will die on this hill. Like Grookey's middle evolution looks like a monster from the second season of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. That is the friggin' like scary ass white furred gorilla. And just like, and just it's awesome. Like the regional variants, like what they did and like what they started in Sun and Moon, they've continued in here. Where like certain Pokemon that are always of one type are of different types. Like there's friggin' like Weezing, which is like the big old balls of poison Pokemon. Like in this one, it's green, and like the top of its head, and like the top like vent of the head where like the smoke comes out, or like a giant top hat, and like they have mustaches made out of smog. And just like all the new Pokemon are awesome. Just a
Fairy Ponyta. So okay, I actually have a funny Sword and Shield story.
go ahead.
I did not know that you could trade Pokemon between Sword and Shield. So I discovered the Fairy Ponyta, and I was like, oh, I want a Fairy Ponyta, but I was playing Sword and Shield at the beginning of the pandemic, so I was like, I don't know where I'm gonna get, how do I get one? And then naturally my brain was like, oh, the obvious way to get another one is to get the game where it's in. So my friend goes, yeah, it's in the other one, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I bought Shield because I'd bought Sword initially, so I bought Shield just for Pokemon. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, and then I explained this to somebody like months after the fact, and my friend looks at me and he goes, "You realize you bought two versions of the same game, right? There's just like the slightest differences." And I'm going, "No, I didn't." He goes, "Yeah, you did. You bought two same game, and for one Pokemon." And I'm like, "Well, it's Fairy Ponyta. Fairy Ponyta appeals to something deep and incredibly feminine in me." And it turns into Fairy Rapidash, and it's just like, hell yeah, I want a Fairy Rapidash.
Just like, oh, I so love just like catching like all the new Pokemon. Like there's this one like Roly Coly, which is basically like a Cyclops lump of coal that like travels around on a wheel, and then it turns into its middle evolution is a minecart thing, and then it turns into what is basically a dinosaur thing. And
I remember that.
I bring this I bring this up because I recently like watched like Bob's just like big ol' huge compilation episode of like Godzilla and the Kaiju, but like in Pokemon Sword and Shield you could like Dynamax them, which is basically make them grow big, and some of them have alternate forms when they're big. And friggin' Butterfree's one looks almost literally exactly like Mothra.
I love it.
And just the gym leaders are just my favorite part, just because again they're just like these weird cartoon characters like in this friggin' Pokemon game. Like there's friggin' Milo, or as he's like known in like my almost but not quite original character family, Milo Debbie, husband of Big Debbie, and a family portrait of which I am looking at literally right now.
That's awesome.
And just Milo's my favorite just because it's like classic comedy. Like he's friggin' just like jacked. He's like like absurdly muscular, and his character bio it says like he can bench press like 770 pounds no problem, but he's got like a literal like baby face. There's like just like he's so friggin' insanely jacked, and then he's also like the friendliest one in the game, and he's just like, "Oh hi, how's it going? You here for the gym challenge? Cool." And like my other favorite character is, Opal, who is, I bring this up because you usually don't see many old people characters in Pokemon. She's like an 88 years old, like leader of like the fairy gym.
Yep.
And she's pretty friggin' like, she's pretty dang tall, which is again hilarious. And she's just like basically adopts one of the characters, and just like the Pokemon Company has to know what they're doing at this point, because at this point this is like the third game in the row where there's like a Pokemon that is just like, what if you took the transgender pride flag and just put it on an animal? Like Sylveon is like, what if the transgender pride flag was a like dog fox thing, and then it was Primarina, who is a Selkie, which is just, I never thought I would use that particular part of my brain that remembered what a Selkie was in mythology. And then there's friggin' Opal and one other character that, like, when they wear their gym uniform, it's literally like the trans pride uniform. And then there's that one Pokemon that basically looks like a head in a hat, and then looks like a witch. And and then there's again, just like in Kirby, you always end up like fighting an unknowable monster. Like the legendary Pokemon are also just like imagine like the kaiju and Godzilla, King of the Monsters, and then like you see like the legendary Pokemon, and then you realize that if the kaiju in those movies like had a concept of religion, they would worship these things.
Mm-hmm.
And just a side tangent, Chris. It'll take several years before we get to it, but there is one Pokemon movie I am gonna make you watch with Tom and I, because it's literally like, what if Pokemon, but like, just imagine like all of the kaiju in Godzilla King of the Monsters. Now imagine if you were like, those are like the kaiju equivalent of like Captain America, where they're just like basically the normies, and like all of the legendary Pokemon are like, what if kaiju, but they were also like gods.
Love it.
Anyway, so yeah, Pokemon Sword and Shield, and then there's the fact that like in the context of the game in this region, like you fight in like stadiums the size of like soccer fields, and there's like huge audiences, and they play it up like as like a professional sport. Like that sense of like theatricality you usually only get in the anime, and yeah, I just friggin' loved it because it's friggin' Pokemon. I can't I'm so bad at words to describe these things, but yeah. But yeah, those two are my games of the year of 2019.
Yay!
So we'll go the final year of this episode, because the game of the year episode is for the end of the year. Let's go to 2020, the year where reality decided to collectively crap itself. So yeah. So
Well,
oh, sorry. You go ahead.
Go ahead. I was gonna say, go ahead.
So yeah, my game of the year, which should again come as no surprise to anyone who knows me and knows what I'm about, because as soon as I saw this was the first trailer. The trailer of this game was the first thing I ever did a reaction to on my channel. Is Paper Mario: The Origami King.
Yay!
Which I get I really just want to see like a behind the scenes thing as to how they do the visuals, because this is like as the years have gone on, the Paper Mario games have leaned in more on the gimmick of they're literally made of paper, but this is like the best version of it, because like some of the your sidekick Olivia is like made out of origami, and she moves and she has like the creases of origami, and just like it's just such a friggin' visually gorgeous game. Like you can see like the little details and like the cardboard that makes up like the world, and just I can't really friggin' describe it accurately, just because I don't have like that type of like descriptive language in my brain, but it's like genuinely gorgeous. Like each location again feels, they like build it so it's like a real place within the context of the game. Like one of my favorite spots is like in like the first like chapter of the game, which is basically how in certain cities there's like the tower, like you go to the top of the tower and you can see the whole city, and there's like a gift shop, and it's just like actually structured like a gift shop, and you can actually see the Toad hawking their wares, and then like the second floor is like the restaurant, and then the top floor is like the cafe where you just like sip coffees and just look at the huge view. And like my favorite little visual detail is like the little fence they have to separate like the cafe area from like the very edge of the tower is like bricks that look like from the first Super Mario Brothers game. Just I love just like the Paper Mario games and the Mario and Luigi RPG games have always done like in like the Mario series, in the Mario franchise, I've always done like genuine like character moments like better than like 3D platformers, and like that really shows, because a good chunk of the game is just like Mario interacting with like the characters, what he is adventuring with. And just again, I'm not giving anything away, but anyone who played any Paper Mario game ever knows that this is true. Just like it gets really friggin' dark. Like, I mean, genuine, like, I hope you two play it someday, and then we'll circle back to this. Because just, like, again, it's like, Paper Mario's have always been freaking dark. Like, in the first game, like, the third chapter involves you having to, like, go through spooky woods to go to, like, an abandoned mansion where all the boos live. And, like, the boss of that game is a freaking giant clubba. And Bowser made him invincible by, like, ripping his heart out and sending it somewhere else, like Davy Jones.
Mm.
And then, like, Paper Mario 1,000-Year Door is just, like, that game also gets really friggin' dark because, like the boss, the boss in the third game, the third chapter boss in the second Paper Mario game is basically, and, you know, anyone who's familiar with wrestling knows that what I'm saying is 100% accurate. It's, like, basically just a character who's as much of a freaking uncaring whack job as freaking Vince McMahon. Like, there's also like, again, side tangent, there's this one season of Power Rangers where the bad guys are literally evil wrestlers from space. And Chris, the next time I'm on your podcast, I'm gonna again talk to you about this in detail because I am literally not joking.
I love it.
Like, yeah, the evil wrestlers, like, Super Paper Mario is just like, you know, you think it's going to be lighthearted, but then you realize, oh, wait a minute, the freaking story is that, you know, the main villain thought, like, the love of his life died, and so he's going to kill literally everything everywhere ever and himself in, like, a bout of suicidal despair. And just and, like, Paper Mario Sticker Star just like, that also had a surprisingly, like, sad moment in the end where someone friggin' dies, and then Paper Mario Color Splash just, well, I would never stop talking about that if I started. But, you know, there's, like, the Paper Mario games, especially in, like, the Mario franchise, are the best. Like, they understand that, you know, you can mix, like, lighthearted, you know, kid stuff to, like, you know, genuinely dark moments of storytelling, and then you realize that, oh, wait a minute, anyone who's familiar with Mario knows that Nintendo has always done this. And just, it also has the friggin' classic humor, and then there's, like, a surprising, like, a huge amount of references to other games. And there's this one level that I think is based off of, like, a real, like, theme park in Japan, according to Gaijin Goomba, and, like, yeah, and, you know, like, the boss fights here are also, like, second to none in my opinion, in terms of, like, creativity. Just wait till you get to those. But yeah, Paper Mario, the Origami King, is my game of the year of 2020.
Cool.
Do you have any, Carolyn?
I've already discussed mine. Because I think it really is Animal Crossing.
Awesome.
Just for the family memories, and just for the fact that I managed to be one of the very first people, at least in my friends group, to score Raymond.
Nice.
And I was just like, yay! I have the weirdly adorable twink cat. And I'm like, yay. But I get to say that, and I'm just like, oh, and so I love Raymond, and I'm still I last time I was on Debbie's podcast, we were talking about Bob, and Bob is my unicorn. Bob is my unicorn for Animal Crossing. One day I will have Bob live on my island, but that day is not today.
Hold on.
Awesome.
Animal Crossing Bob. So I'm putting a picture of this in the chat right now so that Chris can see it, because he deserves to see Bob.
Bob is amazing.
Bob. Oh, look at Bob.
I told you, Bob is great. He's Bob could very easily be a they them. Bob could very easily be Bob is a lazy villager, and the lazy villagers are the best because the lazy villagers are the ones that, you know, I think most people who play video games identify, and they're also very sweet. Like there's a little bear and his name is Stitches. And when you really
Oh,
be Yeah, and when you really befriend Stitches, because he looks like a little teddy bear that's covered in stitches, when you really befriend him, he's like, "Thank you for being my friend," and it's just the cutest little thing ever. And I'm normally like, even though I work at a very happy place, sometimes I can be a very dark person, but this lets me get my, get the cute out, and I'm just like, "Aw, it's just like work. It's adorable. They're so cuddly." And I invested in the Tom Nook Build-A-Bear, so I now have a Tom Nook
awesome.
in my house that gives me money advice because the lady sold me on getting the little voice box that does that chit noise. So every time I squeeze his hand, he gives me what I call my fiscal advice and stock portfolio by going chit 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 chit. And it is all you, sir.
So I've actually been on Debbie's show before and talked about a lot of these, and I have a show on my show coming up talking about my number one, which is the Final Fantasy VII remake. So I won't go into huge detail other than to say it's just like the Resident Evil 2 game. It's a perfect remake of an already great game. And they haven't even finished it yet because it's only the first chapters of the original game, and it's 4 times or 5 times as long as that section was in the original game. So who knows what's going to come after this, but it's wonderful. They're able to do a remake of the original game, but also play like a J.J. Abrams kind of time travel-y, like characters might actually know what's going to happen and are trying to change it, and so there's characters trying to stop you. It's pretty cool. It's a great game to play if you've never played the original, and also great if you have before and you're one of those people that's a purist. It will definitely challenge your sensibility. An original game that came out in 2020 that I love is Fuser, and I know Debbie's heard of it, but have you heard of Fuser, Carolyn?
I have not.
So
I'm very intrigued.
Fuser is made by the company Harmonix. They're a Boston-based music company, a music video game company, and they are the original creators of Guitar Hero. They made Guitar Hero, Guitar Hero 2, and then they tried to add other instruments, and Activision fired them. So they went off and made Rock Band, and then Activision added instruments anyway to compete with them. But they also make Dance Central. They made a couple of games way back before Guitar Hero that became Guitar Hero called Amplitude and Frequency, which were rhythm games where you were in a ship basically flying down a corridor, and you had to jump around from tracks of music and keep them going by hitting button combinations until you heard the whole song. It was a pretty cool game. They were really difficult, and they were the precursors for Guitar Hero. And this game, Fuser, is kind of like the next evolution of that. It's basically Guitar Hero if you were like Electric Daisy Carnival DJ. So you've got, instead of it being like uh DJ Hero where you're spinning records, it's more you're sampling and playing around and adding things, and the audience is asking you for stuff. And I played it for the first time at PAX with Debbie. When we were there, it was the best booth there. It blew me away, at least for the big games, and I had to have it, and I bought it, and it's been a great part of my um gaming this year. So those are my 2 games of the year. But for runners up, there was a couple that I really enjoyed. One I mentioned before was the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake, which those are damn near perfect games, and their remakes are damn near perfect games. What I thought was cool is they weren't able to get the rights to some of the songs in the original game. And that those games are iconic for their original music, their original soundtracks. It had a lot of like big, at the time, Warped Tour, punk rock
Nice.
type bands. So like bands like God of the Dead Kennedys. Uh, wow, I'm shutting down. Goldfinger, were really well known, but when they were unable to get bands to keep those songs for the new one for whatever reason, they put new songs. So Less Than Jake, one of my favorite bands, has a new song of theirs in the game, and the Interrupters have a song in the game, and they kept that torch being carried. Another one, it is not an incredibly well made game, but it is an incredibly cathartic and fun game, is Maneater. And it's basically Grand Theft Auto if you were a shark, is basically the idea. You're a bull shark, and like a crazy, TV reality show fisherman kills your mother at the beginning of the game and scars you and throws you back into the water, and now you're on like a Jaws type rampage where you get power ups, and you can eat nuclear waste and get nuclear powered, and you basically just run around jumping out of the water and eating people. There's not much to it, but it was so cathartic this past 2 years.
Wait. Okay, so you play as a shark and
Yeah.
backstory. That's amazing. I want
Yeah.
that game.
It's a wonderful game. It's again, they got the core mechanic down. You're under the water, you swim around from area to area, and you can jump out of the water and eat people. It's very old fashioned. It's very fetch questy.
Okay.
So it gets a little redundant, but it's so much fun. And it doesn't take itself seriously. And one of my favorite things is, I believe Chris Parnell, it is, from SNL, does color commentary over it, and half of the stuff he says is made up.
Oh my.
So he pretends like, so as you know, that this particular shark can stay out of the water and breathe air for so and so minutes, and it's like, no, that's total bullshit. And it's just really funny. They had a good time with it. I highly recommend it.
It's called Maneater.
It's called Maneater. It's on everything. I think it finally came out on the Switch.
Okay, yeah, no, I definitely need that game in my life, because I any opportunity to play, even if it's fetch questy, any opportunity to play anything where you could be a shark that just eats people with a tragic backstory is just hysterically funny.
Oh yeah, and you can face off against other large, because you're like in rivers and stuff too. So there's crocodiles and turtles and stuff involved, and it's hysterical.
It's Frank Castle the shark. That's fantastic.
Yep. And then last but not least, on a runner-up, to tie in with Labo, is the absolute perfect piece of gear that Nintendo created in Mario Kart Live Home Circuit. Have you both heard of this thing?
I don't think so.
Is
You
this
haven't?
Wait, what was it?
Mario Kart Live Home Circuit?
this is the car, right? The car that the little thing that you can buy when you play Mario Kart?
Yeah.
Like a little-
Have
Yeah.
you heard, Debbie? You haven't heard of this?
I haven't played it.
Okay.
Or bought it.
So what it is it's a remote control car with a camera on it, and that camera is actually an AR camera. And they give you these little cardboard cutout Labo type stuff that sets up your track, and you can set the track up however you want in your house, as long as you have the Switch in your hand and you follow the thing around. And it becomes, when you look at it through the screen on the Switch, an actual Mario Kart game with racers you race against that aren't there, but they put them there. Power-ups. It's a full 4-circuit Mario Kart. So even though you've set up one track in your house, it creates AR stuff, like it creates animals and things to get at. So it's this weird blur between reality and fake. It's incredible. And you can get 2 people with a Mario and Luigi one, and you can race against each other. It works so much better than you would ever expect it to. It's wonderful.
I had no idea that. Okay, so during the last year, I worked at while I was waiting to come back to the park, I worked at Target, and then
Yep.
we had those all the time, and they were out of stock instantly.
Yeah,
And
it's incredible.
Nobody wanted the Mario one. Everybody wanted the Luigi, or nobody wanted the Luigi one. Everyone wanted the Mario one. All we
Yep.
had was Luigi. Man, I didn't know that was what they did.
Oh, it's incredible, and I never thought it would work. I'm like, okay, that's cute, and then I got one, and I was like, it's perfect. It even drifts.
What?
I don't know how they pulled it off, but it does it. I'm gonna put the
Wow.
trailer in here so you guys can watch it after, because it works as well as they show it working in this trailer.
Oh my god.
It's amazing. So yeah, that's mine.
That is the coolest thing. See, and I'm so glad I finally have an opportunity to get into gaming, because I never, as a kid, like I never was really not. I mean, like I could have, but it was never really my thing. And it's like, the pandemic really opened my eyes to just different things that you could do, and I think that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and yeah, it is obscenely late now for I think
It
all
is.
of us.
It is.
So
Yes.
we'll just wrap this up by saying this brings us to the conclusion of this particular episode of the Pumpkin Copter Cast. I would like to thank Chris the Chipman and Carolyn Mobius Variant 112189 for joining me.
Wow.
And yeah, if you've enjoyed the show, like, rate, comment, subscribe. Please help me, break into triple digit subscribers before I turn 40. Yeah, and if for some reason, if any of you have money and would like to support the show or support me so that I can, do stuff and live life, or you've just been enjoying what you want to do and what you're watching and want to influence it a little bit more, like Chris Chipman is, I probably should have disclosed that at the beginning. You can go to patreon.com/the Pumpkin Copter Cast, where for as little as $1 a month, you can submit questions for me to use in future interviews. And, if you enjoyed hearing my words and you want to hear more of them, you can go find the podcast, Gotta Recap Them All, a dangerously ambitious thing that my friend Tom and I have done, where we are reviewing and recapping every episode of the Pokemon anime and all of the movies. And to give you a sense of just what we've gotten ourselves into, by next Tuesday we'll have reviewed the first 80 episodes of the Indigo League, the first season of the anime. And after that we will still have over 1,030 episodes to go. and sometimes these two are on it, and
That is me. I am on it. I love music.
It is a really great show.
And and before all three of us go and just collapse right into sleep, like, what are some things you two want to plug?
Go ahead, Carolyn.
Well, I'll go ahead and plug my Twitter once again. My Twitter name is Carolyn in Fandom. That's CarolynIn and then capital FANDOM. I'm mostly active on Twitter. I'm getting back into the freelance writing game. You can check out my most recent piece on Collider.com, Why It's Time for a Gender Neutral Loki. And you can also check out a number of other pieces that I'm currently working on about various and sundry other projects. I write mostly about Marvel, Star Wars, horror comics, horror TV shows, spooky things, and haunted animatronics and haunted robots. Although I am embittered and annoyed with the creator of a certain video game that features those things. But thankfully, the fandom that features those things is large and awesome. So support the fans of all your favorite things, and yeah.
Love it. I can't wait to, since this is my first experience with you, I'm so happy to meet you, and I can't wait to dig in to see all that stuff, because it's going to be awesome.
Yay!
Me, Chris Chipman, aka the Chippa. I am the Chippa on Twitter. As Debbie so nicely put it, I make too many things. I do the Chipman Brothers Tangent with my brother, which was the first podcast I ever was part of. I've been guested before, but first one I was part of. He gifted that show to me, and that became the Chippa Made This brand of podcasts, under which there is Creating Geeks, a show about sharing things from your childhood with your kids that I do with my wife. The Shooting the Shit with Chippa, which is just like the Tangent, only my brother isn't the guest. It's random. It's whoever really wants to come on and whatever they want to talk about. I've had directors, writers, musicians, just awesome people I meet on Twitter that want to talk about stuff like this. Debbie has been on the show. It's a wonderful show. I enjoy it, and I also do the Talkbuster podcast, which is about video rental and working at Blockbuster. I started that show randomly because I used to work there and thought it would be great. And then Blockbuster became huge again right after it. So I've gotten a lot of guests, including the people that run the last store in the world in Bend, Oregon, and the people who made the film about the last store in the world. So check those shows out. I also do some stuff on YouTube. I do video logs, and I also do the Fighting Films podcast, which is not under that umbrella. It's a separate thing that I do with my friends. Well, I am so tired. I'm forgetting names. Stefan and Jess. It's a great show. You should check that out as well. And that's what I do, and I love doing it.
Yeah. And, until next time, everyone, as I say at the end of every show, thanks to, basically being forced into it by other recurring guest, Ashley Jenkins. Have a gourd day, everyone.
Bye bye.
Touch.